Hi, welcome to episode 5 of How to Play Kill Team with BFS Wargaming. I'm Patrick. So today we're going to be looking at the fight phase and the morale phase. Okay, so the fight phase. The fight phase is split up into two sections. So there's the Hammer of Wrath phase, which is basically the phase that you fight with all the models that have charged first. Okay. So again, you alternate the same as in the shooting phase. So one person, the first player who's got the initiative, they go first with a model they've charged with. Then the other player goes with a model they've charged with. And they keep alternating until all of the models, they've used all of the models that have charged. Once they've done that, they then go into a phase called Fight for Your Lives, which is the phase which all of the models that haven't charged, they then get to fight. Again, you alternate starting with the person who has the initiative. So first thing we'll do is we'll look at the charge models, the charging models. So the first thing you do is you pile in. So when you've done your charge, you would have had to have ended within 1 inch of the enemy model. Now, if you are a little bit away from that, you can do what's called a pile in. So you can then move up to 3 inches. As long as you're not into base to base contact with that model, you can move up to 3 inches as long as you end your move closer to that enemy model than you started. Okay, so this is a good way of getting around, and then maybe if you then kill that model, you could then, what you can do afterwards is you can consolidate, and you can consolidate up to 3 inches towards the closest enemy model. So if he was taken out of action by one of these, he could then consolidate up to 3 inches and bring another guy into combat. Okay, he wouldn't then be able to fight them because he's already done his fight phase and he hadn't charged them, but he would then be in combat with them for the next round. Okay, this is a good way for close combat units to bring shooter units into combat without them being able to fire Overwatch. They will be able to hit back in close combat, but usually shooter units aren't very good in close combat. So it's a really good way for close combat units to drag them in. So it's getting a bit more tactical there, but that is something you can keep an eye out for. So we'll go into the fight phase. So you look at your data sheet again, you look how many attacks your model has. So I know a Necron Warrior has 1 attack, and his weapon skill is 3+, so he's going to be hitting on 3s. So much like the shooting phase, you have a hit roll, then you have to roll to wound, then you have to roll a saving throw, and then you have if he fails the saving throw, then you'll have the injury roll. So say if I'm hitting on 3s, there's no obscurities, there's nothing between them. Like if there was, say, a bit of terrain that was between them that was slightly obscuring them, then it would be +1, but there's not. So just hitting on 3s, I rolled a 2, so I missed, but let's say I did hit. Then I'd have to check my model's strength, or the strength of the weapon he's fighting with. Now, he can't use his gun, so he's using his fist, so it's literally just using the model's strength, which I know is 4. And again, the cultist toughness is 3. So it would be rolling a 3, which I rolled a 6. So therefore, that wound roll has gone through. Now, because I'm using my fists, there's no AP, so there's no armor penetration. Okay, so he still gets his 6-up save. So the cultist is going to roll his 6-up save. He fails it with a 2. So what that means is, again, we go into the injury roll. Now the injury roll, exactly the same. It works exactly the same way for the shooting phase as it does the close combat phase. So you would do the injury roll in exactly the same way. So the shooting phase and the close combat phase is very similar. You just might be using slightly different weapons. But other than that, you have the pile in, you have the hit rolls, the wound rolls, the saving throws. You obviously have the fight back later, depending on who's charged and who hasn't. Hope that's all clear, and we'll move on to the morale phase. So the morale phase, we're going to talk about a broken kill team. So what happens in the morale phase is if over half of your models are either out of action, have flesh wounds, or are shaken. We'll go on to shaken in a second. But if over half your models, say if you have 10 models in your kill team, if 6 of those are either out of action, have flesh wounds, or are shaken, then you have to take a test, a break test, okay? So what happens is you take the highest leadership of a model on the board. So let's say your leadership was, say you're a sergeant and a deputy is a sergeant, you'd have a leadership of 8. So you have to roll 2d6. If you get over that, then your team is broken. So you need to get under 8 with 2d6, or 8 or under, and you won't be broken. So what happens if you're broken, which means that all of your army, or every single model in your kill team, then has to take a nerve test. And we'll move on to nerve tests now. Okay, so a model has to take a nerve test if its kill team is broken or if it has a flesh wound. Now, for instance, let's take the Necron Warriors. If this Necron Warrior had a flesh wound, and he was the only one that had a flesh wound, there was no other models that had any flesh wounds or out of action, flesh wounds are out. So if there's no other models that are out of action or are shaken, then it means there's no modifiers. So he couldn't fail his nerve test because he has a leadership of 10. For instance, for this cultist who has a leadership, or this cultist who has a leadership of 6, if he had a flesh wound and he had 2 of his kill team were out of action, that means that he would have a +2 modifier on his nerve test. So he had to roll a d6, and on that d6, if he rolls a d6 plus the modifiers, which would be +2, if that is over his leadership of 6, which it could be up to 8 if he rolled a 6, then he would be then shaken. You would then put a shaken token next to him, and he would not be able to do anything for the remainder of the next turn. Then the shaken token would be removed, and he would have to retake that nerve test. So this is very good in terms of it would stop you taking a horde army in terms of, or horde kill team. So if you had 20 cultists, it's probably highly likely that you're going to lose a lot of them because they're quite weak, and then you're going to end up your kill team will break and you'll be taking a lot of nerve tests. So in some of the missions, if your kill team breaks, you have lost the mission. And sometimes if your kill team breaks, it's just very hard to carry on because if a lot of your guys are failing their nerve tests, then you won't be able to carry on. So there are plus and negative modifiers for nerve tests. So for instance, if you had 3 people that weren't shaken within 2 inches of the guy that needs to take a nerve test, then he gets +1 for each of those models that are within 2 inches of him. Okay, so he's going to be getting modifiers. So therefore, if he had leadership was 6 +3, it was 9. That means he wouldn't be able to fail the nerve test. I hope that's clear. I'm going to be putting a table up and showing you exactly the rule page. But yeah, it's all written there, and it shows you exactly how it works. Okay, thanks for watching episode 5 and the final episode of How to Play Kill Team with BFS Wargaming. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was informative, and I hope I didn't miss anything out. Obviously, there's loads of extra rules in terms of which go a little bit more in depth. I just tried to cover the basics and as much as I could that you could then go and play a game of Kill Team and you'd pretty much know what you were doing. So if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. If you didn't, then probably don't. But yeah, if you want to go to get any Mad Gaming terrain, which is really good for Kill Team and skirmish games, then there's a link for 40k Gaming where you can get Mad Gaming terrain from. Check them out, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.